All the Miami Hurricanes had to do to keep control of their own destiny was just protect a 21-point lead against Syracuse. But here we are, now at the mercy of the College Football Playoff Committee.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today, especially on a hard day like this. I'll be real with you. I appreciate whoever is watching this and listening to this, because I know how we get. You lose a tough game, and that was a really tough game that Miami lost. It felt like multiple losses, because that wasn't just one game. That was your opportunity to really punch your ticket not only to the ACC championship game, but to the college football playoff. And Miami failed. They lose 42-38 at Syracuse. So for those who are here, I appreciate you guys. Today's episode of Locked On Canes is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel because new customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On this episode, we will talk some recruiting and some high school football. We're just 3 days away from the early national signing period opening up. NSD is coming up on Wednesday. Believe it or not, Miami is not out of it for the college football playoff. There still is, like Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance. We'll talk about what went wrong against the Syracuse Orange in Miami's 42-38 loss. And I'm so pleased because Blue, on a tough day like this, Larry Blustein joins us from Prep Red Zone, Florida, 560 WQAM. It's hard for me to carry this burden alone, right? I mean,
yeah.
21-0 lead. You end up giving up a 42-17 run the rest of the way. This was a tough loss, Blue. And first of all, I mean, I wasn't even feeling that great after being up 21-0. So what does that say that I don't trust my team to protect a 3-score lead?
Well, it says that the defense is not real good. And we knew that all year, Alex. I mean, it was a matter of how many points the offense could score, to win a game. And certainly you knew going in that Syracuse had an opportunity, no matter how far they were down, to come back because of Kyle McCord throwing the ball all over the place, their wide receivers. And I don't think their offensive line gets enough credit because for that to happen, they have to protect him, and they did. And, like you said, when they got up 21-0, you said, well, wait a minute. Miami's just not going to wake up and say, hey, you know what? We got one of the best defenses in the ACC, because we know that's not true. You call it like it is. You have to be realistic. And Miami, without that offense this year, could have had just an average season. So you have to thank God that you got 10 wins. People don't realize a 10-win season is really good. But you as a fan, you got to that top of that mountain. You just wanted to put the flag on top, and they were so close. And it's frustrating. It's the type, if you're a Miami fan, during the night last night, you wake up and you toss and turn and think, and oh my gosh, we could have just put this all to bed, and we could have been a top 4 seed, and it could have been all over. We have SMU next week, and those things, they happen because you could dream about what if, but you were there. And that's the whole thing. You were in a position to close this thing out, send yourself to the ACC title game, and win or lose, you would have been a team that would have been in the top 12. You really would have. Because you would have had an 11-win season. Your losses were to a Georgia Tech team that took Georgia into 8 overtimes. And then you lost, and that would have been your only loss of the year. And you could have hung your head on that. And even if you lost to SMU, because SMU is regarded as one of the top teams, you would have been in a situation where, okay, you know what? So we lost, but we're going to be in the playoffs, and that's the objective now. Let's win this whole thing. Now you have to sit and wait and see who, and you know how it is. I mean, if it's an SEC team against Miami, Miami's not getting it. They're just not. SEC, they're 2 and 3 loss Alabamas and all these type of teams are unfortunately going to be considered. So Miami's on the hot seat to get into the top 12. Not that they don't deserve it. Come on. Syracuse is a hostile place, easily one of the best offenses in the country. But that being said, Miami should have won the game.
Absolutely. And as far as the playoff chances go, I think it helped Miami a little bit that the Texas A&M lost last night to Texas, because that makes them now a 4-loss SEC team. Because again, it's going to be hard for Miami at 2 losses to get in over 3-loss SEC teams. So we need as many of those 3-loss SEC teams to suffer a 4th loss as possible. Auburn could have helped us if they had beaten Alabama last night, but they didn't. I think the other thing, Blue, that absolutely needs to happen now is SMU has got to win the ACC championship game, because if they hand Clemson their 4th loss, then Miami's resume at 10-2 should looks better than a 9-4 Clemson would. But if Clemson, and I absolutely would give them a chance against SMU, they'll probably be favored by a point or 2 in the game. In fact, if Clemson beats SMU, then Clemson and SMU both get in. Miami, cancel Christmas. They're not getting into the college football playoff at that point. So that's the scenario that we're looking at. But I know, Blue, you always keep it real with me. So, and I know that the answer is never just one thing or another. This stuff is always nuanced. But I see, so many Miami fans trying to identify everything that's wrong with the defense. How much of it do you put on coaching, and how much of it do you put on the talent? Because it does feel like they don't really have a plan B, and it always seems like other teams are more prepared for them than they are for the other teams. But then at the same time, I understand there are certain players who have gotten exposed all season long.
Yeah. How many times have you seen after, a game and a coach, say, hey, listen, thank God that guy made that catch. He made me look good. I'm not a 100% guy that goes against, position or coordinators, because it just happens. You work all week to put the kid in a position to make a play. If he doesn't make a play, that can't be on you. Although the fans are going to fight it and say, well, you know what, that comes down to coaching. Yeah, but if you ever go and you understand football or any sport, if you work with somebody long enough and you teach them, hey, listen, when he lines up over here, you got to be over here, just in a position to make a play. You look last night, the defensive backs got crossed up 5 times because you're sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute. If you're a DB coach or even the coordinator, you look and say, wait a minute, on a play like that, I told them, they must have watched a billion hours of McCord. They must have. And said, listen, when they line up in this formation and Gadsden's over here and, this guy's here and our running back's here, they're going to go 90% of the time to that way. So if all of a sudden they go that way and the defensive back guesses wrong and he goes the other way, why should that be on the defensive coordinator? It shouldn't be, because all you've done, you can only, as they say, and I know it's an adage, but you can only lead a horse to water. Can't make them drink. But there are times where you could say, hey, listen, that was, Guidry should have, known this and that. So the onus is on the defensive coordinator. Obviously, they've got to be accountable, but at the same time, not everything should be. And the same thing, you look on the offensive side of the ball, and there's a couple of plays that, obviously they would have loved to have back, that maybe it was a read. Are you going to say Dawson's horrible? No, they've worked on that billions of times, but you know what? Execution is everything. And that, from Little League all the way up to the NFL, if you execute properly, it makes everybody look like a genius, right? So, and I understand the frustration and I hear it all the time, like this guy should go, that guy should go. Well, it's going to be a revolving door if you feel that way all the time, because not everybody. You look at Ohio State. Oh, 3 guys should be gone from there. their defensive coordinator made 2 wrong plays. Their offensive coordinator didn't think when they should have had. So what are you going to do? You're going to blame the coordinator or coaches for everything? Now, a lot of times it's warranted, but yesterday in some of those games, especially in Miami, that was on the personnel. That wasn't always on the coordinators or the position coaches. Again, I'm not going to take the heat completely off of them, but I think fans are, and I listen to it, are putting too much on, what the coordinator should have done instead of what the player didn't do.
Yeah. Well, my take on all that is it's like everyone looks for a scapegoat. And I'm not saying that to necessarily, because do I feel like, hey, the defensive coordinator could be doing a lot better, Guidry? Absolutely. Sure. And like you said, he's got to take responsibility for that. He's got to wear that. But when fans do this thing where they act as if, hey, one guy is responsible for this team not being good enough, it's like, it's lazy and it's just too convenient. Like, it's too convenient for me to think that, hey, if we only had a different defensive coordinator, we'd be 12-0. We'd be in the college football playoff. Or if we had one different defensive back on the field, we'd be 12-0. We'd be in the CFP. Or if we had a different head coach, we'd be 12-0. Like, it's, to me, I wish it was that easy, guys. I wish we could put this on one person or one scapegoat. Yeah. But it's just not that easy. And when we come back, I want to, because it wasn't just the defense that let Miami down, although they gave up way too many points, 42 points. I guess 35 of those were on them. One of those was on a turnover for a touchdown, and that's part of my point. It was more than just the defense that let Miami down, because there were plays left on the field. There were some questionable decisions. I want to get into, because I'm actually going to, people aren't going to like this, but I'm going to defend Mario a little bit for the decision to kick the field goal late, because I can see the logic behind it. And we had some catastrophic penalties late in the game as well, guys. So we're only getting started. We have the great Larry Blustein with us. You guys want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. Guys, I mean, if our team can't be in the ACC championship game, at least we can still wager on it, right? FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And get ready to tackle the NFL action later today with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets live on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you for being with us after the toughest loss of the year. I mean, the Georgia Tech loss was painful, but Miami still had control of their own destiny after that. This Syracuse loss feels like multiple losses. So, Blue, something that Miami fans were melting down on social media when the Hurricanes are down 7 with a little under 4 minutes left in the game. You're at a 4th down on the 10-yard line. Mario Cristobal decides to bring the field goal unit out there to cut the lead to 4. Now, I know a lot of Miami fans are saying, like, go for the touchdown. What's the point of kicking the field goal? Because you go from needing a touchdown to still needing a touchdown. And I will admit, had I been in that spot, I mean, what do I know? I'm an armchair coach, but my instinct, my intuition said, let's go for the touchdown here. That's what I was feeling. So I was a little disappointed that they kicked the field goal in that spot. But yeah, I've had some people say to me on X that, like, oh, that was worse than not taking the knee against Georgia Tech. Blue, I understand the logic behind it. Mario Cristobal talked afterwards. They use analytics in these situations, where I would have gone with my instincts and my intuition. They go by the book. They go by the analytics. And the logic was, you've got almost 4 minutes left in the game. You kick the field goal. Theoretically, you try to get a defensive stop, and then you can win the game with a touchdown. Now, the problem is your defense wasn't stopping a nosebleed at that point in the game. But Blue, the other side of it is fans act as if they'd gone for the touchdown, they win the game. No, first of all, even if you score the touchdown, you still need your defense to make a stop. Like you
And they
understand,
weren't.
right? You understand if you score the touchdown and tie the game, Syracuse can still go for a game-winning drive, field goal or touchdown. So that doesn't guarantee you anything. And then if you don't score the touchdown on fourth down, the game is over right then and there. So, I mean, I don't think that was as egregious as a coaching decision because bottom line, Blue, either way, your defense needs to make a stop in that spot.
Yeah. Well, I understand the thinking because like you just said, you come away with 3 or you come away with none. Okay. And that's the whole thing. And you still have 4:42 left in the game. And that's my point, that he was playing, listen, our defense hasn't stopped, but maybe we're going to get a stop here. And if we do, we're going to win this game. And but on the other side of the coin, everyone kept thinking, well, it's leaving you down by 4. You're not going to be able to kick a field goal, so you have to score a touchdown. So that was the only thinking. So you could bat this back and forth. I know the fan, and my gut reaction at the time was what the fans thought. I go, wait a minute, what the heck? Let's just go. You're 10 yards out. Hit Arroyo, hit somebody. I mean, and that's the thing too. That's what frustrates me. If you look yesterday, I think sometimes Ward tried to extend a play without making a play earlier. And,
right.
I mean, he got out of that pocket and there were 2 receivers open, on one of the play. I think it was the third down play down there. And so there's a billion ways you can go, Alex, and you can point your finger in every way. I can understand what coach, what Cristobal was thinking and the staff, but at the same time, I know what I was thinking. And like you said, all we are is sitting here on a Sunday and kind of criticizing when they're, they're accountable for everything that goes on. So I think at the time they felt, that may be the decision. Let's go. Let's get those points on the board. We have a long time left. Yeah, we haven't stopped them and they have 480 yards. But at the same time, if you looked, people don't realize that McCord averaged 49 attempts a game. He only had 36 in this game. So that kind of shows you that, he didn't have to make as many plays as they usually. But the running game also with Allen and, they clicked. And so they had more of a, they had 380 yards of passing and about 175, 180 on the ground. So he felt that maybe, let's get a turnover, let's see what can happen. Let's try to, because all you could do in a situation like that, even if you go for the touchdown and miss, you'll be in the same situation. You got to come up with a stop either way. Right. So that's what they were thinking, let's get points on the board. Let's stop. We got an offense. We got multiple receivers and, and I'm not trying to stick up. I'm playing at devil's advocate on both sides. So as fans want to scream when they hear me say it, but at the same time, I understand what you're thinking. And I was right there with you. But also you have to give the coaching staff the benefit of the doubt that knows situations and they know tendencies and they know what everything is all about. So either you kick the field goal and you trail by 4, still needing to stop them, or you go for a touchdown, you miss it, and you're down by 7, and you still have to stop them. So I can understand either way.
Yeah, no, I totally, I'm with you on that. And unfortunately, the margin for error shrank to basically 0. Once the game was tied at 21, the shootout was on. And you knew it was going to come down to who basically made 1 or 2 more mistakes than the other team. And that became Miami. So, yeah, I mean, listen, the primary culprit for the loss was probably your defense in a game when you give up that many points. But Blue, it's like, unfortunately, I thought the big turning point in that football game after Miami forced and recovered a fumble, you thought, okay, that's going to be Syracuse's big mistake. The game was the game was tied at that point. This is going to be Miami's opportunity to go back out in front. And then on their ensuing drive, that's when you get. And unfortunately, listen, I'm not going to sit here and criticize Xavier Restrepo. He's had an incredible season, an incredible career at Miami, but that was a bad error. He's trying to extend the play, making sure he picked up that first down, which he did, but then he fumbles and that fumble gets taken the other way for a touchdown. So that was, And Miami was in position at least to kick a field goal at that point. So that's a minimum, a 10-point swing, if not a 14-point swing. And then Miami never recovered from that. So Syracuse had just made a mistake. And instead of capitalizing on that mistake, Miami, unfortunately, it went a catastrophe, another mistake that completely canceled out the first one. So that was another major factor, was that turnover.
Yeah, but in a game like that, you could have 10 different scenarios that happen. Like, okay, so that happened. But then a possession later, something else happened. Three possessions before, something else happened. So you have a bunch of series, and most of the times, a fumble like that's not going to be taken back all the way. Because someone's going to react and, you're going to say, oh, okay, so he fumbled, unless everybody may not have thought it was a fumble. They relaxed and they let the guy go. And because I didn't see everybody running until he kept running. And, that there was just – and like you said, in the next series, Restrepo catches one for 66 yards. So, it's not like, it's – you could sit there for 10 hours and try to hit on every scenario. And the whole thing is if the reaction after a loss like that was anger, obviously. And that's why people want to do post-game show. I would never have done it because you know how things are. But then you take a step back like you just did and talking about how you rationalize this or that. And everybody can point at any time during the game and make a big deal out of it. Like you just said, oh, well, they should have gone for the touchdown and, they shouldn't have gone for 3. But what if they went for 3 and then they held them and went for and won the game? Right. So there's a lot of ifs in this game. And if you watch college football yesterday, certainly, there were games. I mean, and as well as I do, Michigan had no right to win that game. They had 2 big-time kids out. They were on the road. They were a 20-point underdog. So those things happen. They just, they just happen. You have so many kids now, the parity in college football because of the portal and some of these guys that they have studs. They have studs on Syracuse. They have studs on, Virginia Tech and schools like that. So anything can happen if you just, the ball bounces funny sometimes. And, to me, I've been thinking all year long, I think that Oregon is the biggest paper tiger in the country. Should have lost to Boise, should have lost to Wisconsin. So, to me, they're going to probably end up, well, they're playing Penn State in the Big Ten championship, and Penn State could beat them. Very easily could beat them. So, this is a crazy thing. And, like you said, when the committee goes down the scenario to see after the playoffs next week, they're going to look at everybody and they're going to look at Miami and say, wait a minute, Miami beat Louisville. Louisville went to Clemson and beat Clemson at Clemson when Miami beat Louisville at Louisville. So you look at those scenarios and, the Florida Gators, look at what they've done. He turned that damn season all the way around from Miami hammering them in the opening game. They finished 7-5 and beat some pretty good teams along the way, beat LSU. And those things are all going to factor in when they sit down and say, listen, okay, Miami lost a tough game, to Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech took Georgia into 8 overtimes and should have won the game on the targeting play.
They should have.
So they're going to sit around the table and they're going to have a lot of positives and negatives. And I think that if I was a member of that committee that would be choosing the 12 teams, I would play everything. What I would do is if you give each member of that committee a team to dissect, right? And you look at what they've done along the way, all the way, whether Miami lost at Syracuse or lost to Georgia Tech. But let's look at all the things that happened, during that course of those teams. Like I just said, I painted that scenario for you. Let's say Clemson goes on and wins, beats SMU. I just think SMU is probably a better team, but we'll see. But you could paint that scenario. Listen, Louisville went in there and beat them handily. And Miami beat Louisville at Louisville. So there's got to be pluses and minuses. You and I were sitting here thinking, are they a 12 best team? Listen, there's a lot of teams that you could say should be in the top 12. It's no clear cut this year because of the parity and because of everybody playing one another. So yeah, let's see what happens. The thing that I dread is if they don't make it, and I've had this argument with people for the last 3 weeks telling me, about bowl games and how people are opting out. And I said, listen, it's because they don't want to get hurt. Okay, well, in a conference championship, or if in the playoff, a top 12 playoff, they could get hurt very easily there too.
Yeah.
To me, I think it cheapens what all these bowl sponsors are doing, putting in millions and millions and millions of dollars, treating the kids, like royalty, for these kids to start opting out and missing these games. And I'm just, people can take shots at me all they want, but I'm an old school guy thinking that's a reward for the entire team, the coaching staff, to go to a bowl game, to experience the week, and for you to opt out, I think it's selfish. I don't care what you say. I don't care what he's going to lose his slotting. Well, he could have got beat. He could have got a season-ending injury 2 weeks ago against Georgia Tech or Virginia. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, those are the things that bother me, Alex, the most. And I'll fight people. I'll fight people to the end of that.
And I agree with you. You're right. It doesn't change reality, though, because reality is, Blue. I mean, we both know that if Miami makes, a regular bowl game and not the CFP, we know there's going to be opt-outs all over.
A lot.
We know it. Because I agree with you, but it doesn't change reality. So reality, guys, we're just a few days away from National Signing Day. I'd like Blue's take on, whether or not if losing that game against Syracuse, how much does that impact recruiting? And can Miami close out with a very strong class of 2025 in a few days? And they're already working on the 2026s, by the way, as well. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Game Time. The Game Time app is the only ticket app that I use because, guys, we're getting the best deals on tickets to football games, basketball, any sporting event, concerts, comedy shows, musical theater, you name it, they've got it on Game Time, and the prices actually get better at the last minute. You procrastinate, and the prices go down the closer you get to the event, which is a beautiful thing. Folks, they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier because Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Guys, other features that I love, the all-in pricing feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout at Game Time. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Alex Donno alongside our special guest, Larry Blustein. So Blue, part of the, again, like that was a catastrophic loss yesterday. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But at the same time, I have people asking me, are we going to lose recruits over this? Or, I mean, it's still, you zoom out, it's still a 10-2 season, Blue. And, Miami has worked really hard with their recruiting pitches, with, the top 10 class that they already have verbally committed. And there's still a couple of players that they're trying to flip, going after guys like TJ Alford, like DJ Pickett. Miami's going to try to battle LSU down the stretch for him. I mean, does losing that game to Syracuse, painful as it was, does it change Miami's recruiting landscape dramatically over the next few days?
No, I don't think so. I think these guys are all on board of what Miami's doing for the future. In the very fact that here's a team that has a 10-1 season and playing, at a high level, one of the top 10 teams in the state and the nation for mostly the entire year, and you're having an opportunity to see kids like O.J. Frederick and other freshmen and young kids play. You have an opportunity to do the same thing. They have Notre Dame and Florida next year, amongst Florida State and a lot of the other ACC teams. They're a program on the rise. They have a lot of talent on board. They're not utilizing everybody from only from the portal, but they've recruited extremely well. I think that a lot of the position coaches have made impacts, but I don't think so. And they may even flip somebody or so. So you never know. No, they've done a great job. You can't hang your hat on a game or two. You just can't. You know, I mean, this is an entire lifestyle for the rest of the life. They'll be known as University of Miami Hurricanes. And, you know, you look at Restrepo, who could have walked out 2 times already, but he didn't because he wanted to, you know, be a proud graduate of a school that carries a lot of prestige in and out of the classroom. And yeah, so you come here for a reason. And I think the added incentive is the football program. You know, people could take all the shots that they want at Coach Cristobal, but he is Miami. He's not just here for a stopover like a lot of colleges coached around the country. This is him. He wants this for the rest, you know, of his coaching career. So to me, if you like his style, and he's always, listen, he's a tough guy and he'll get on you in practice. But when you do something well, he'll reward you, and he'll reward you in the media. He'll never throw his kids under the bus. Whenever he's in a post-game press conference, maybe as down as he might have been yesterday, all he did was talk about superlatives. And you've got to like a coach who's not two-faced like that. And there's a lot of them that are throwing kids under the bus, you know, for no reason whatsoever. But there's a lot to like about this program moving forward. And certainly I don't think that it's going to shake anybody, you know, from that's coming in early. And that's essential because these kids coming in early, a lot of the guys who are going to be in positions, because you look at how many young kids that they recruited last couple of years who will step into big time roles. Whether they recruit, you know, or they get the portal or not, you know, there's a lot of freshmen that had an opportunity. You look at a kid like Lyle, who obviously is like who you and I talked with Brian Monroe yesterday. This is a kid that has a potential to play on Sundays. And, you know, you got a really, really good group of kids, especially their recruiting classes are always quite close to each other. You look at them on social media. And I think that's big. And then there's a lot of prestige, whether these young kids know Michael Irvin or not. They know of him, and they could Google what he did. And here's a guy who has been along for the ride with him. And, you know, I mean, he didn't have to. There's no other Hurricane. I didn't see all these other big-time Hurricanes that, you know, were Heisman trophies or in the Hall of Fame. Edgerrin James wasn't there every game. So Frank Gore wasn't there every game. But you have a guy like Michael Irvin, who's obviously the most visible of recruits, and to have him talking to you on the sidelines and giving you all these, you know, pointers, there's no other way you want to be. If you're a commitment, you stay that way.
Yeah. Let people know, Blue, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You have the most informative radio show in the country. When people want to learn something about, you know, the state playoffs, they want to learn about the college programs down here in the state, college football. You listen to Larry Blustein show on 560 WQAM. You're on this Tuesday night, Blue, and then, of course, you're going to have another really big show next week. What can fans? What can fans expect this Tuesday and the following Monday?
Well, this Tuesday, we'll kind of set the table a little bit for this week, which is a state semifinals. We have, excuse me, 6 local teams that are in a position to be in the state championship. St. Thomas has had a tough year, but they're 5-time defending state champions. You got Chaminade Donno, who's going for a record 9th consecutive state title appearance. So we'll talk a little bit about that on this edition coming up on Tuesday from 6 to 7. We lead into the hockey. But the following Monday, we're on 6 to 8. That's the 9th. Just mark your calendar. We're going to be talking with all the coaches and players who are going to be participating in the state championship games. They're over 4 days, starting on the 11th, which is a Wednesday evening. Chaminade Donno most likely will be there for a 7:30 game, and then right down the wire all the way until Friday evening or Saturday evening at 7:30. 4 straight days of great football at FIU, the Pitbull Stadium. And if you're a South Florida guy or listening to this anywhere like from Orlando down, this is your opportunity to come on down, enjoy some great football in a tremendous facility. FIU is a really nice facility, really good for this. Plenty of parking, a lot to do around there, a lot of great restaurants. If you're from the North Florida or Central Florida, if you really want to taste the culture of Miami, that's the area to do it.
Amen to that. Well, we appreciate you as always. You want to follow Blue on X at Prep Red Zone FL. Larry Blustein, thank you so much for taking the time, and Hopefully we can keep this Miami program on the up and up, my friend.
Yep.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you, Alex.
Well, we'll talk to everyone again next time. Obviously, we're going to lean heavily into National Signing Day over the next few days. If there are any developments on Miami's playoff chances, we'll have those for you. You want to keep it locked right here. We'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.